to the multi-instance type. So just like we have a single instance field, similarly, we have a multi-instance field as well. So Workday gives us to fetch the multiple values out of a multi-instance field. So I'll take the similar example. Let's say we have multiple dependents and we want multiple dependents in this case. So let's say you want male dependents. So out of the all dependents, you just want the male dependents. So you can create a condition such wherein you can create a condition wherein you will get all the male dependents. You can say I only want spouses. So wherever you see that there is a possibility of multiple fields getting outputted and you also have a need to show them, then you can create the extract multi-instance field in these cases. So it will extract multi-values from a multi-instance field. So let's see, I already have this. I guess so. So same thing it will ask, you'll create the field, you'll create the source field, then you'll have the related business object. So here what you will do, so some source fields from the business object. Okay, so you create a condition. Similar way, we had a dependent field, and out of this dependent field, the business object will be auto-populated as it happened in the case of single instance. And then you have a condition field. So in the condition field, you're going to write that condition, which is going to help you create a rule based on which the filtration will happen from a multi-instance field. So in this case, I have created, and again, the same concept will be applied. You'll have to use the same business object, which is being used by your source field and which is auto-populated for you. So I have created a condition with the relationship type of field wherein I'm specifying a relationship as child. So in this case, I want all the childs. I want all the childs from the multi-instance fields. So out of all the dependents, I'm going to get the child. I think it's my daughter. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so we'll create a condition here using this conditional true false calc field. We're going to call here. We'll choose the field as relationship type. And in there, I'm going to specify the child. If you have a need to create a more stringent condition, then you can do that as well. You can use more than one field in here. If you want to specify, let's say relationship is child. If you want to specify, you need like female children's, all the female children's as dependent, then you can maybe also add another condition where you specify the gender as well, just like we used in the ESI field. So along with the relationship condition, you can also mention a condition like child along with the gender field. So children, but with only female or male children, so that you can specify. So whatever the condition your dependents are going to satisfy, that will be part of your output field, satisfying the conditional field. So this would be your EMI calculated field, and the output of this will be a multi-instance field. Now let's discuss. So this is not very usually used, but can be used. So I'll discuss very important field now, which will be your evaluate expression field. You might have used it. So it is like if and else condition we used to build via the code. Here we are going to build a condition using the evaluate expression field. So it also has multiple usages depend on the kind of situation you want to be in. So it's basically kind of a conditional thing that for a certain condition, you want certain output. For a certain condition, you want certain output. So like if, else if, not to going too technical, but you have certain condition. If that condition is being met, then we have a return value. If that condition is not met, it is going to go to the second condition. It will check if this is going to meet. If this is going to meet, then it will return this value. So in the sequential order, it is going to execute each and every condition until it finds a true condition. But only one of the condition can be true. Whichever it finds the first, it will exit the loop and going to return that particular value. So The use cases could be of this, and what is the criteria, what is the look and feel of this field. You have the name, you have similarly business objects and all those things. In the calculation field, you are going to specify a field type. That means your return value. That is what kind of a final output of your field you are expecting from here. So if your final calc field you're expecting the final value of the field you're expecting as a text, let's say I have a condition, I'm creating I have a logic that somebody wants me, that they want to send the email value if a person has the email value. But if a person does not have the email, then maybe in that case they want me to send a dummy value in that case. So there is a requirement of the email as mandatory field in the downstream system, and instead of Workday sending them a blank value, they want us to send a dummy value for the ones. So they would also understand it that this is a dummy value. That means this is not a real value. So their system will not break. But later on, when the email is assigned, that will also be overwritten in the next runs when the person is assigned an email. So this is just one of the use case wherein you need to return certain value on a certain condition and some other value on a some condition. So here you have conditional fields to execute, and based on the type of field. So in this case, I was expecting the final output value of email or maybe a dummy value. So both of them are kind of text fields. So here in the field type, I'm going to choose the field because I can create a eval condition on any of the fields. My fields could be a multi-instance field. My field could be a single instance field. My return value could be a Boolean field. So depending on this particular field, what you are going to return, you are going to choose. You can also return a Boolean field. So depending on the type of situation that you are in, you can choose your type of the calculated field that you want to. So here I have chosen a text field because my condition was an email. So first I have chosen a field type as text. Now for text, it allows me to use, it does not pop me with the business object here, but for single instance fields and other multi-instance field, it populates the business object field, wherein I would need to specify that which business object I want to choose the value from, which is my default value. So this is to print my default value, and I'll tell you what the default value is. So for single instance field, it asks to specify a business object. For text field, it does not. So in
Vijay,
yeah.
so already there is a business object defined in the above, right? So why there is a repetition? If
Yeah,
it
so
is like a related business object, yeah, it makes sense. But there it is same, right? Business object, it's like repetitive.
no, it is not for the related business object. What it is depending on the field type that we are choosing. So Workday kind of finds an additional business object here, because you would see that in the evaluate, because evaluate field kind of takes a little bit of more processing time, depending on the conditions. So to have the more performance improvement, they have kind of given a business object field here, especially for the single instance, multi-instance fields. So if I go here and choose the multi-instance field as well, I'm still going to get a business object use value. So how it helps is, it helps us to uh, define the default value, that from which object my default value would come. Although this is my primary business object, but here they have defined again to choose a value. So let's say in the single instance type, I'll just remove this. So this is my field cost center. So let's say my default value is cost center. This is my field worker I have. Probably it is going to helping. Yeah. So you see here in this, I'm getting 3 errors. The entered information does not meet the restrictions defined for this field. So what happens is, here, when you choose the business object and the default value, it asks for a relation. And some of the field, it behaves little differently than the normal business objects that we have. So uh, I also got to know when I used it for the first time, I was also surprised that even though I'm choosing the worker business object, why I am being not allowed to choose a field which was actually on the worker business object. So if I just choose this, so it is not showing me that field which I was choosing previously. I chose the cost center field first and I then chose the business object. So it started giving me the error. But now when I've chosen the business object here first, and then I'm entering the cost center field here, it is not giving me that cost center field here. It's not available. So this works on a little different way here. So the best way to achieve this is just whatever the work you are typing, whatever the field that you are looking for as a default field, especially in case of single instance or multi-instance field, just type the same field in the business object as well that you are looking to default. So let's say I was looking to default the Workday delivered cost center field here in my default value. So in the cost center as well, I'll just type the cost center field. So here I have got this cost center field, and then in the default value, I'm going to type the same field. So now it is allowing me to use the same field. So it is actually the same field. If you see here in the cost center, it is the same field, cost center, worker, the cost center, the worker's primary position, this field replaces one cost center. The same thing that you actually use in your reports as well. But the business object, it kind of asks in a different way other than that we normally use in our reports. Not sure why Workday has done this, but this is how it is. I also learned it the hard way, that why it is
Okay.
when first time I was trying. So I was just banging my head that it's very rare that I'm choosing a worker business object and I'm not able to choose the cost center, which is the field on my business object only. So you will also get this, but I think I have told you, so at least you will be worried
Mm.
because nobody in our trainings, we learned it just by working. So
And one
similarly,
more
you'll.
doubt.
Mhm.
Uh, we are using this business object, like in this case, business in here, business object is actually a field and not an actual business object, right?
Yeah, so it is actually here. If you see here, that's why I have clicked on here in the cost center. It has opened the same business object details report,
The
which usually
worker,
gets, yeah, no, no, not the worker,
oh, the cost
the
center.
business object cost center. So here it is, open the cost center business object. Here, cost center is working as a business object, wherein your direct field is relying on the cost center. If I just go here to my report, so if I just see this field, I have added this field here as well. So that's what it is playing the role of. So here you have the business object worker, and this field is allowed to be placed on worker business object. But you see here that this field has a related business object from where it is getting the value. So the related business object is this. So which is why in the report columns area, it is allowing you to put that field here. But when you are using this field in the calculated field evaluate expression, here it is asking you to actually enter that particular related business object for which this field is on. So I
Okay.
also failed some more fields. So just some time back, I was creating a calculation field for the contingent worker type. So I already had this experience with cost center field. So again, I just tried, because as a layman, what you would do, you would just choose your same business object and then you're going to search a field. So again, I was just doing the same thing. I was using worker here. And then in the default value, I'm just trying to search my contingent worker type. So it's a simple, straightforward field. So I was expecting it should be there on the worker business object. But again, I was not I was not able to get that. Then I tried the same trick, which I tried with the cost center some time back. So then I use the default object. I just chose in the business object, I chose the contingent worker type field, and then in the value as well, I chose the same value, and then it allowed me, and it works the way as it was. So if you go again here in the contingent worker type, you have the contingent worker type field coming from worker business object, and it is referencing a related business object called contingent worker type. So I think the thumb rule would be that if the field, let's say you are searching for, let's say your default value is whatever field, cost center, and so just open that field first somewhere in the column or where, just to see the definition of that field and see what RBO it is on, and then probably use that RBO here in the business object field, and then you use that same field here, and then it will allow you. So I think this is the trick and the logic as well, which you can use if you're not able to find something which you require.
Okay. So in this case, like, can we use, say for example, in the above, like we have used business object as worker, and then here field type as single instance, and can we use business object as worker again? Will the system allow?
Yeah, it will
I
allow,
know
but
I know it's a field, but
only for the
yeah.
fields which it will allow, not for every field. So if I say, and this is especially in the case of your single instance field mostly kind of use the other RBOs as well when we just saw the field definition. So in the worker, so first of all, just try your field which you are trying to look for by searching as well in the name. And if you're getting your field, let's say if I just want to default the employee ID field, so I'm not getting my employee ID field. There is one more reason as well, because my employee ID field is not single instance. My employee ID field is of actually text type. So if I use two text, so in that case, my business object is already getting omitted. So that's anyways another thing. So I can use all my fields which are satisfying this category. Similarly, my email primary work field was. So this is like it.
Okay, so the best practice is first search the default value and then see what's the definition, and then if it is text, then text. If it is like not a text instance, like multi-instance or single instance, then from the definition see the related business object and add that first, and then select the default value, right?
Correct. Or maybe you can open this field that you're looking for default value somewhere here in the screen and see what definition that field is holding. And then probably depending on that, what type of field it is, you can select the type, and then you can select the business object, what it is on, and then the default value accordingly.
Okay, but also I have another doubt. Like we are in the evaluate expression field, we are using all items. Like we just tried or everything, right? And then when I see in the condition, it is not mandatory. Like the email should be there for whatever iteration I mean, whatever condition we followed, but still why there is no error? Maybe it's not where we didn't submit it, right? So that's why it's not throwing an error.
I didn't get your point. Can you please come again?
Yeah, in the field type and the evaluate expression, we now testing all different conditions, right? Like we try to use cost center, and then we changed BO multiple times. We try to explain. So at that time, the conditions below, right, it will never satisfy for a cost center, because in cost center, that it's
Condition
not.
actually, so to cut you short here, conditions could be anything. You are returning your default value is a cost center. In the return value, you can return a company as well. In the default value, you can return any single instance field, or sometimes text fields as well. But in conditions field, your condition could totally be different, maybe using a date logic, maybe using a totally weird logic, because condition is something, if it is XYZ, then I want to return some value. So it's not necessary that my condition would be on the same field or the return value that I'm using. My condition could be anything. The field is actually going to return the final value out of this eval. Either it could be one of the return values, or if nothing works from the conditions, then it is going to default my value, which is not so. In default case, it's like it's a else condition. If nothing works from the condition fields, then it is definitely going to default my value as an output of this field, which I have defaulted here. But condition
Okay.
has nothing to do with that. Condition could be anything. You can build a condition on cost center and return an email as well. You can build a condition on hire date and return a cost center. It doesn't matter. Condition is something
Okay.
that you have a logic, a business logic in mind. So I have a condition that if my if the employee belongs to particular cost center or particular company hierarchy, then as a return value, I want to send their email. But if my person is belonging to particular cost center or particular hierarchy, then in that case, I want to return the employee ID instead of email. So it is just a requirement that could come in any way that for some employees, I want to return their email as their key. But some employees, their email could not be unique. So I want to send employee ID as a key. So in some cases, I can return other ID value as well as the return value. So return value they should belong to the same category, but it doesn't matter what condition it is. Your condition has to be satisfied on your primary business object, which you have used here. Any condition you can build on your primary business object.
Okay.
So this was one of the case that you can build, that you have certain requirements. So just like these condition fields will be normal true and false fields that you can create. So normal true false field using my business object as worker, and then I'm defining whatever condition I want to make. My email primary work contains @ this is my condition. So in that case, my email is in perfect order, so I want to return my email. Other condition I'm checking that if my email is blank, then if my email is blank, then I want to return a dummy email. So dummy email is nothing. This dummy email is a text constant field. I think if we have not discussed, we can just discuss it right away. It's as simple as that. You just define a business object, and in the calculation, you just define a text constant. So you just write it yourself, whatever you want. Same as a numeric constant, you write a number. So there is nothing like as negative numeric constant or positive numeric constant. If you append a minus sign to it, that numeric constant will behave as a negative number. If you don't append anything against the number, then it will behave as a positive number. Similarly, for decimals, you can create using the numeric constant fields. Now, from a performance perspective, and when you have too many conditions in your evaluate expression field, in the real-time world, when you create a condition, first of all, from a performance perspective, you have to think that since the order of this execution of this eval is such like that the first condition will be evaluated, and if the first condition gets satisfied, it will not even go to the second condition. If first condition is satisfied, it is going to return the value against it. Over. Logic is finished. It will keep on searching unless it finds the particular condition true. And if it does not find any condition true, then in that case only it is going to default the value. So you have to be very careful in the order when you are creating this calc field. That first of all, you should enter from a performance perspective the most occurable condition first. Because if you know that majority of the calc fields, majority of the people will have, just in this case only, that majority of the people will have the emails assigned by the time this report will be running. So I know that 90% of the workers or employees will satisfy this condition only, that they will definitely have a @ in their email. So I know that's why I'm going to write this condition first, so that for 90% of the people, first line will be executed and this field's evaluation will be over. If I write this condition at the very last, and considering I have 10 different conditions, so for each and every employee, each condition will be evaluated and it will be at the last that will get true. So the most occurable condition that you know, so in the order of their occurrence, the most probable evaluation or condition that the most of the employees will get true. So in that order, decreasing order of that, you should write your conditions and their respective return values. Another thing is that there are conditions which are more exclusive in nature or more inclusive in nature. So in that case, you also have to be careful that I am writing a more exclusive condition. So in that case, let's say there are two conditions I am writing. First condition is that I am checking if a person's cost center is this and if a person's company is this. So these are two conditions I'm writing. So this is first condition. I'm checking if a person belongs to cost center A and a person belongs to company B. This is my condition. Same condition, but I have two rows. I want to say this is, so if I just do this, there is subject, and I have a function called true false. So here I'm saying that my cost center so let's say this is some cost center. And then I have another condition for company. So assume a condition, which is this, that we are checking the cost center of a person belongs to this and a company belongs to this. So my condition says both of these condition has to be true for this condition to return true. And let's say I have called this condition in the calculated field that I am using. So where is my calculated field? So let's say I put it here in the conditional field. I move it up. So let's say my first condition was this. And I had another condition where it says that in the second condition, I'm only checking the cost center in the second condition. I'm not checking anything else. I'm just checking if a person belongs to particular cost center. Now you tell me I have one condition which says cost center equal to this, and I have one condition which says cost center is equal to this, and also companies as well getting checked. And in both the cases, I have some different values to be returned. In this case, I have something else to be returned. In another case, I have something else to be returned. So when I'm writing my condition, because if I just check the cost center condition first, so it will not even go to this condition where it has also to check the company field. So this condition has to be met first if a person belongs to the cost center and the company, both should be checked. And if they don't, if they are different, maybe let's say a person was only satisfying the cost center condition and not the company condition. So it is going to go to the second row. And maybe in the second row, your condition would have called, which was checking the cost center is equals to A. So in the second row, that would have been the perfect condition to meet, because now it is only satisfying the cost center A condition and it will return the desired value, whatever it was to be returned. But had I have called that particular condition first, where it was only checking the cost center, it would have checked the first condition, company cost center belongs to A, and then it would have returned the first row. It would have never gone to this condition. But ideally it is wrong, and we are sending a wrong return value in that case. So it is not a technical thing, but it is just a business logic that you would build in a way that you are actually, so this will be very thin line cases when you are building the eval calc field. So these two things are just need to be checked. One thing is from a performance perspective, that the most agreeable condition you are going to write first. Second thing is from a business rule perspective, because if you think that these conditions are more exclusive in nature, then those needs to be called first, and then more inclusive condition needs to be called little later. And there are a lot of use cases of these fields that you can build. Just like if I would say that you'll build a lot of these eval calculated fields, wherein especially in the case of your report or your integration is sending future hires. So in case of future hires, you're also sending, let's say, so you are sending all workers. Now in all workers, you have future hires, you have terminated workers, and you have active workers as well. So now I have a field called cost center, let's say. So I have a field called cost center, and my cost center is a field such like you would have experienced or not experienced that some of the values in Workday are kind of executed or evaluated based on as of the effective date. That means what is the date today. So these values for a future hire, if I say let the future hire was entered, approved everything, and my value report was sending a future hire to the downstream system, but that cost center field is coming as blank. So there are a lot of such fields as like the cost center, for which if the entry is in future, those values will be returned blank, because those values are evaluated as of that day when you are returning the report. So when you're running the report, the employee is actually not active on that day. And since he's not or she's not active on that day, there is nothing in that cost center field for that particular day. It will only return the value when the higher date would be active in the system, and on that particular day's run, the cost center field will start sending the value. But your downstream cannot wait until that moment, and they are requesting that we should get all the values as of when whatever the status of the worker is, and we do not want to wait until then. So in these cases also, you would create, and since this is all workers report wherein you are also sending the terminated workers data, so this would also create a problem for you. And let's say they want to retain the terminated workers data as of some time in the future. So sorry, in the future. So even if the worker is terminated, they are maintaining the terminated workers up until 1 week after their termination as well, or maybe 2 weeks, depend on the downstream to downstream. So in that case, once the worker is terminated, Workday will just start sending the value as blank of those fields, because the worker is not active anymore as of the date. And when the termination date has passed, uh, fields like these will be returning blank value again, because the worker is no more active and the values are being checked as of the worker status. So in these particular cases, what you'll have to do, you will have to come up with the evaluate calculated field, where what you will do there is that you will check the status of the worker first, that what is the status of the worker, whether the worker is a future hire, whether worker is a leaver, he is terminated. So based on that, you will decide that how do you want to calculate the value. So in the custom change detection, as you know, we already learned one type of calculated field called as lookup value as of date field. So in the lookup value, did we discuss the change detection? No?
No.
Okay. See, I'm too much confused due to the parallel batch. Okay, no worries. So we learned this. So you create a condition where you will identify. So it's like a if and else. If the worker is future hire, then I need to send some value. If the worker is terminated worker, I need to send some value. And in the default case, I need to send some value. So let's say I have a real-time requirement, and this is a real-time requirement I'm talking about. So first condition, I'm going to check. So again, I'm following the performance rule that I will have most of the, I have first condition I'm going to check if the worker is a future hire. So future hire, I'm going to check. How do I check if person if is a future hire? I can check if a person is a future hire by checking their hire date. And it is a PF type field. Business object is worker. So I will check if a person is a future hire. So I'll say if the hire date operator greater than say today. So if the hire date is greater than today, that means it is in future. You can create calc field like this as well. You go from here itself and you create a calculated field from here, so it will be auto populated here. You don't have to go to the second tab. Okay. And then in the let me just so now my if my hire is a future hire, then I want to return the value as of his future hire date. So how can I? So by default, if I just return this field, this is a workday delivered field, which will give me the value as of the worker status, which is as of now. So as of now, if the worker is a future hire, this field is going to return me a blank value. So what I can do is I can check, Workday allows me to check the value of a particular field as of any particular dates in the system. So let's create another type of calculated field, which is we call as lookup value as of date. Short form, some people uses this. Otherwise, some people can use other thing as well. But the field type is called as lookup value as of date. So lookup value as of date, cost center as of hire date. And the type of this field is lookup value as of date. Click OK. So here how the format works is you define a source field. That means whatever field you are searching for. So I want the value of cost center. Now, after entering the source field, I am going to enter the field as of which I want to check this value. So for future hires, since the value is entered in the system and whatever the transactions which is entered in their system will be effective as of their hire date only. If their compensation and their assignment organizations or anything to everything will be based on their hire effective date. So if I check the value of this cost center field as of the effective hire date. So what is the effective value in the system of a particular person? What is the effective value of cost center as of their hire date? So now even if these workers are in future, it will go in future, check, okay, this worker, okay, first of all, this worker is a future hire. Then go here, calculate the cost center's value as of their hire date in future. So what is being entered? Does anything exist? It could be a possibility that there is a field which is not even entered itself. That means configuration is empty for that field. So in that case, the delivered value will also give blank, and this value will also give blank value only because there is nothing configured in the system. So in that case, you cannot do anything. In that case, it is blank only. So that's a configuration issue. So it will check the value of that field as of the hire date in the system. So if I just click OK for now, so that at least it gets saved, then we can build the condition. So this field is going to give me the value of cost center for my future hire as of their hire date. Then I'm going to build another condition. Here I'm going to check if the worker is a leaver. So in that case, I already have a condition, Workday delivered condition, which checks if the worker is terminated and which says terminated based on the report date. So it checks the worker and return true if the worker is terminated based on the report date. So if the worker is terminated based on the report date, how do I want to? So if the worker is terminated on the report date, then how can I check the value of that field? But my downstream system maybe wants that value. So if the worker is terminated, we will see what was his last termination date in the system, and we are going to check the value. That means whenever he left the organization, what was his last details? So maybe he left yesterday. So up until yesterday, whatever the value in the system effective was up until yesterday, that will be the source of truth. So for me, CF lookup value as of date, cost center as of term date. So I'll see source field as cost center, and instead of the hire date, now I will see the termination date. So I'm checking the value of the cost center as of the termination date of the employee, so that the value when he was terminated, maybe let's say yesterday, 2 days before, then what was his cost center when he was terminated in the system? This is termination effective. What was the cost center? So here Workday is allowing me to go back in future or in past to calculate the values. So here what's happening is it is going to check if the person is a future hire, then check the value of the cost center as of the future hire date. If a person is not a future hire, then it is going to check the person if it is terminated. Then it is going to return the value as of the terminated. Now in this, and if it is not a future hire, he is not terminated, then in that case, default, he is an active person. So for active person, we already know that the cost center value gives fine. So in the default value, we are returning the cost center field. Now again, this is a trick here, wherein if you could have called the terminated condition first and the future hire later, then it would have created some issues for a particular case when a person is a future rehire. So in case of future rehires, what happens is that when a person is hired in future, but he was hired before as well in the system, his last status would be actually terminated. So I left the organization, and then after some time I joined the organization, and I have entered my data is entered as of future. So my last status in my organization would be as a termed worker. Although my future hire has been entered, but until my future hire becomes active in the system, my profile record would be shown as a leaver, as a terminated worker.
Yeah, like in progress future. If the rehire status is in progress,
correct,
then the profile is still will be showing
as
as
leaver.
form.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I would have called the terminated condition first and future hire condition later, what would have gone wrong? That for these workers who are actually future hire workers, so I am sending actually, so let's say when he last joined the organization, when he left, his cost center was ABC. But now when he is a future hire, his cost center is totally different. And it is highly possible that his cost center is totally different now. But I would be sending a wrong information to the downstream based on his terminated status. But rather, he's a future hire now. So I am going to send new value to the system, because now these values will be active in the system when he becomes active. So in this case also, because if this is true, if it is going to find the person, it's terminated because he is terminated. But in the case of future hire, instead of checking the termination, we are checking if he is a future hire or not. So person who are just terminated, not a future hire, they would be checked later. But if they are future hire and even though they are terminated, then we are sending the right value, because we need to send the future hire values.
But Vijay, the first condition is like it will just pull only when the future hire has been completed, right? Even if it is in progress status, it will still pull
Of
the.
course, for your
Okay,
report to run, for your fields to be calculated, you need a completed, committed data. In
completed.
progress is in progress.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
this was.
is
Mhm,
there a condition to pull data which is in progress state? Like, because there are situations like if they are having a bulk student appointment, then
mhm.
if for some reason they are all in progress state, but we need to pull a report to see what is the total count of the future appointments, then
Mhm.
is there any calculated field
The
to pull the in progress?
calculated field you'll have to build on, then you can build the calculated field on worker history, where you can use the business process conditions. So
Okay, got it.
just like if I would say, we can discuss one more example maybe, but this example is actually for your practice, so you will get to know. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't get to work on that, then let me know. We can try that because this is in the activity. So where you would be building, you will be finding the completion date of a higher completion date of a particular person in the system, and their most recent higher completion date to be precise, because again a person could be multiple times hired in a company. So in that case, we are looking for. So in that case, you will have to go and traverse the entire worker history. So when you go to the worker history, you will have a lot of transactions. You will have hire transactions, you have organization transactions, you have change of transactions. So you'll filter out on the transaction level. So similarly, if you want this kind of data, then you can use the worker history object or the staffing history instance fields, and then you can get the value from there. You can filter out on the business process. You can also filter out on the business process statuses as well. Let's say you're only looking to report on a in progress business process. So in that case, from the staffing history object, you can search that I'm looking for hires which are in pending status. So you would choose the business process condition as hire, and then you would choose the business process type as hire, and the status is pending. Then you would see, okay, that what value you want to return. So similarly, Jack, just like we create a single instance field, similar way you would create this, and you can find any value related to it from the business process you want to return. And also there are business process transactions report, where it deals on the business process level, wherein you need to change the entire business object, business object itself. That means data source itself in the report, where you would build the report on the business. So if your requirement is on a business process transaction level, so that you can create on there, and then you can again create filters for any particular business processes, their particular statuses. You want to report on rescinded transactions, you want to report on in progress, pending, active, successful. So all these things you can play around. It depends on what requirement you have. So this was one of the use cases of your evaluate expression as well, that you will have just a different way of thinking. You can do that, and you can achieve this kind of conditional things from the written. This will be very heavily used in your day-to-day purpose, so you can get a good grasp on this. So in this one particular field, you created eval, you created true false field, you created lookup value field as well. So one field referencing too many fields. So these will be nested level of calculated fields. Now this eval can be used in a LRB field further down the line. So it's all possible. So when you have nested calculated fields and you want to see that which field is being called when, and what is the total hierarchy of this field when this field is getting executed. So you can go to that field here in the calculated field section. You can choose the view calculation hierarchy. So for the big nested calculated fields, it will help you find that the what is the hierarchy of this calc field and what all other calc fields it is calling in a single place. So this is your top level calculated field here, as you see. Then you go down here. Here it is your delivered field being used here. You have a terminated based on the report field used here. Then you have a conditional field, and your conditional field is like this. That conditional field is using these two fields. Then you have a lookup value as of date field, which is here, which is using further delivered fields. Then you have another lookup as of date field. This is the field. So in the first total top level calc field, you can find what other calculated fields and delivered fields this calc field is using to understand the hierarchy, how this field is working. Now, there are other type of calculated fields as well, not much used, but could be one of them. So if you are building a letter report or birth letter or somewhere where you are reporting the organizations or people sitting on any particular roles, then you would come across this kind of a field, look up organizational roles. So here, let's say people come and go. If a person is sitting on a particular role in an organization and I want to know the details of that person, especially in the letters. Let's say you're writing a letter, you have a letter which is getting printed from your business process or a whatever employee promotion letter, and you want the director sign on that letter. And for that particular person, the director is sitting in some organization with that particular role, and that role could be chosen by some other person down the line. So I want the person sitting on that role. I don't want to hard code it to a particular person, because now he is, she is, tomorrow she could be something else. So this field helps us to find a person sitting on a particular role. So if we record the example, can be used when you want to know the person employee behind a particular role being assigned. You want to know the HR manager role assigned on a company level to a person A on a role B in the company ABC. So how do you work this out? I think I have a screenshot as well. I can quickly show you, but we can do that in Workday as well. So similarly, you create a calculated field here. You choose the name of the field, you choose the worker, and you choose the field type here as single instance. That means what is the return value of your calculated field. Do I have this already created? You choose your business object. You choose your function as lookup org. So lookup organization rules. So here you choose the type of field that your return value is. If you're expecting that there could be multiple persons sitting on that role and you are expecting a multiple value, then you can choose the multi-instance field. If you think that on that role only a single person I'm expecting, then you can choose a single instance as the field type. Then in the assignable role, you will choose the actual role. So you are functional consultants. So you know that on there are different roles. On my cost center, I want the accounting manager, or on my supervisory, I have a manager, HR partner, or lot of roles. So let's say I have an accounting manager role, which I'm searching for. And this accounting manager role is sitting on my cost center or on my company. So now this field will be executed for that particular worker. It will go and search for this accounting manager role in the company. So it will check the workers company, because 100 workers could be in different company. So it will search for the accounting manager role in that person's company which he belongs to, and then get you the details of that person here. So this field helps you find a person sitting on a particular. So this will help you get the details of the CEO, get you details of the managers on a particular sitting, or any other weird roles that your organization have by using this field. Lookup value as of date we already discussed. There is another field not used much, but you can also build it. This is called sum related instance calculated field. So this field helps you get the summation of some values based on some particular conditions. So for a very good example, if I tell you, so let's say you have a report and you want to sum the amount of bonus and one-time payments which has been given until now for all the employees. A company wants to know that how much we have paid in the past year to the employees as part of the one-time and bonus payments. So they want to know this figure. They want the sum of all the amount for every employee. So there is a field called sum related instance, which you can use in Workday, wherein you would define your business object, and in this calculation tab, you would define your related field. It could be a multi-instance field, because of course it would be a multi-instance field because there will be a lot of data coming in it. So you're requesting for a data from bonus and one-time payments, and then the business object will be auto-populated here. So in the sum condition here, you would see all instances or instances when condition is true. So if you want to just sum all the values without any conditions, that means it could be from last 5 years or last 2 years or anything up until now, whatever is being there in this field for the particular employees, it will be all summed up. But if you know that you only want to sum the data from last particular year, then you can put a condition by using these instances where condition is true. So here you can build a calculated field on your this related business object by specifying the maybe let's say effective date of the one-time payments that was done. So you can build a calc field or maybe use a delivered condition to define any condition, time condition. Maybe let's say you only want to check particular one-time payments. So only sign-on bonuses or only gift cards or only Christmas bonus I want to sum. So all the conditions, any conditions which can be built on your one-time payment business object, which will be the business object of your related field, you can build any such conditions from here and then call them. So when the sum will happen, it will only consider these conditions and not any others. And then this will be finally your field to sum. You want to sum what field? You want to sum the amount field, or maybe there is some other field that you want to sum upon. So this will be your field that will be summing up. So this will give you the which is the related things which are getting true for a particular employee, and then summing up that data and giving you. So if you see the final calc field type is a dollar sign, that means it's a currency field kind of data which will give you a numeric number. So it's a currency field. So this can also help you sometimes to build the conditions like this. Lookup value as of date, we already worked. So there is activity in 1.3 slide 26. I'll probably share this slide soon today itself. So here the condition, I think I already kind of showed you, but still you can try. And this is the explanation of this activity. So you might find it easy because the PPT is for actually in general for non-Workday people as well. So you might not find it interesting, but I've already shown you some complex scenarios. And then you have on the slide 28 and 29, some good activities on the calculated fields. This one is on the dependent. Some of it we have done, but some of it we have not. So just try to do them. On 29, as I was explaining before, on 29, there is some data that you need to get from the worker history, staffing history. So on the 29, this is the calculation for the calculated field 2.2. That also you can do.